IVM.
Hey, welcome to Shunya 1, episode 95. We're counting down to those last few episodes here.
Last few to 100. Don't say last few like that.
Last few episodes to 100. And last week's one was also very interesting. We have some quick feedback on our Slack.
Yeah, so we did a poll, right? After Akshay had come in last week to talk about the Bombay Shirt Company, we asked the question, what is the best model for retail going forward? An online channel, an offline channel, an omni-channel. It's unanimous. Everybody believes it's the omni-channel model, which I think makes sense. I think we've seen that also when we had from Tata Click, the Souvik was here when we had come. We also felt that too.
Yeah, but I feel I really don't like going to stores anymore.
Well, I don't like going to stores either, but I think the idea that you have the option is powerful.
Yeah. But I don't have the interest. So you think
online only?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're online only. Okay.
Once I know my fit and hopefully it works, then online only.
But I mean, even outside of clothing, right? Well, actually, you know what? Clothes are the only thing I would go to a store for. So I mean, like outside of clothing, though, I definitely, if it's anything that comes in a package, send it to my house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this pans out.
But good episode we have today planned.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking to Sachin from EasyRoads.
Yes.
It's going to be a very interesting conversation, I'm
I
sure.
have known Sachin for quite a while, and I think that it should be an interesting... Yeah, I think it should be fun to talk to him. I mean, like, EasyRoads is a really interesting platform, I think.
All right, let's get into the show. All right, we have with me and Amit.
I am here. I haven't disappeared.
Oh, hey, we have with us today Sachin Parikh, the CEO of EasyRoads. Welcome to the show, Sachin.
Thank you. Feels great coming back here.
Yes, you're back to the studio. I think you and Amit
been a while,
know each other, and you've actually been on one of the other shows on our network.
I've been on the Being Cyrus show, and as I was telling you when I met you...
Not Being Cyrus. Being Cyrus is a movie. Cyrus Says it's
Cyrus
a show.
Says.
Yes.
That's right, Cyrus Says. This is a far more easier welcoming for me because, you know, the last time, as I was telling you, I came in like yellow pants. And I directly faced Cyrus for the first time. And oh my God, he took the mickey out of me, man.
Yeah,
Since then, I've been always questioning myself when I want to wear yellow pants.
Yes, of course. And I think that's another episode that we should go back and listen to now that you've told us.
That's a bad thing, right? You should question yourself when you're deciding to wear yellow pants.
Yellow pants?
Yeah.
Then I actually
should
bought yellow,
yourself.
pink, and I bought like a rainbow colors of pants. I believe in color, man. I got to be a colorful guy.
All right.
Absolutely. So, given you're a colorful person, why don't you tell us about what EasyRoads is and how you actually got into it and what maybe the origin story was?
So I think, as you said, right, like I believe in color, fun, travel, outdoors. So again, same boring start, typical corporate culture, suited, booted, shaving every day. I was in London for a good 9 years, working for corporates. And I incidentally got to work on the London Olympics project as well for a bit, which was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've had. Moved to India in 2013, for the bug. So I think that's my personality. When things are just beautiful and it's amazing and it's lovely. We had a great flat in London. Everything was amazing. And some kida in me just comes up saying that life can't be just so perfect. Yeah. And when that happens is when, that bug starts kicking in and I'm like, bel mujhe maar.
Yeah.
So I went back to my boss, who was a British guy, and I told him, Len, I want to go back to India. And that's when he was like super shocked. He said, you know what, you're probably one of the very few Indians who are like itching to go back because by then I already had a startup idea in my head. So I came to India and I kept my job on for a bit and then I quit my job completely full-time and then I got full-time into the venture that I ran prior to EasyRoads, which was again an alternate travel experience company.
Okay.
And ran that for a bit and then, we ran it almost for a couple of years. Revenues were all right. And then I actually, decided to move out. So I moved out, sold my stake, moved out and completely not knowing what I was going to do, whether I was going to go back into a job or another startup or what, had no idea. But once you decide, you kind of, you want to move in fast. And, moved out. And, that time my son was a year old and me, my wife and son, we decided to take a road trip because we've actually since we've lived in London, we did a lot of road trips and they were just beautiful, right? And I believe in slow travel and I believe that India is such an amazing country and it's best explored by the road, right? And it's about, the whole, the journey that, you experiment. And, India again, if you look at India from a very negative angle, you'll start seeing a lot of negatives and poverty and which is all there. But if you actually see it from a very positive and a different angle, there is so much unbelievable stuff that happens on a certain journey, which is a brilliant experience. When I feel you don't get these experiences in Europe because Europe is just too perfect.
Yeah, it's
And
pristine.
and it's very predictable. Now the fun part is when there are certain things which are unpredictable is where the maja is.
Yeah.
And that is what India gives, right? So so coming back to the point, we decided to take a road trip. We went from here to Goa, like everybody does. And it sounds a little cliched, but all the possible things that could potentially go wrong went wrong on that road trip. And, like my car got conked off. We were not having a place to stay. We had this, kind of a weird guy coming and, opening the bonnet, and I have no idea what he was going to do. So and my wife was, a little already, and she, what is ironic is she hates road trips.
Okay.
And here's her husband who's building a revolution or a cult on road trips, right? So it was kind of, firstly, it was, hard for me to convince her that, listen, road trip's the way. And then, so when shit happens, it happens in a lot of abundance.
Yeah.
So, the sun was setting SUN and my son started crying SON and everything was just boiling together. And I was like, all right, that's when I just kept my cool. I'm like, let me just handle the situation. So anyways, we came out of it. We finished the road trip. And while coming back, my wife was like, you know what, Sachin, we're not there. We're not there yet, right? Because there are still a lot of uncertainties that are there on the road, and like how do you do it? What do you do? All of that, right? So that got me really thinking. And as us, all of us, as entrepreneurs or as founders, obviously there are problems. There's also an opportunity, and I saw that as an opportunity. I went back to the drawing board, typical survey monkey. I wrote down about 5-6 questions, and sent it out to a good 200-300 people. And the response that I got was pretty phenomenal in terms of what we could potentially solve, right? And hence, went back to my wife, all filmy style. Hey, you know what? The idea is not to do road trips. The idea is to do something about the road trips, and I'm going to make that happen, right? And that's how EasyRoads was born. So essentially, EasyRoads is a technology platform for road trips. Now, when you just say that, obviously people don't understand it. So now when you think of road trips, you think of Google Maps. But Google Maps is essentially a map/navigation company. It's not a road trip planning company, right? So, it runs an algorithm to get you from A to B in the quickest way. But the idea of a road trip is the joy and the freedom. It's the sights and sights in between. It's about the journey. Again, every traveler, you speak to, they'll all talk about the journey, right? So again, I hate using this, but I firmly believe it's about the journey, right? So as I said, so Google Maps is a map/navigation company. It's not a road trip planning company. And hence, the gap that we're trying to fill is, imagine you want to do a 10-day road trip in MP. I mean, an MP is beautiful, right? Now, the whole process of actually curating and going about the whole information. So currently the information is scattered all over the web, right? So there's a TripAdvisor study which stated that a person logs into 20 to 22 blogs and websites to actually curate a road trip because, there are so many elements that I want to do a scenic drive, I want to do a highway, I want to stay at a farm stay, I want to do, like a scuba diving somewhere here, I want to do this, that, so there are so many facets and, stuff that actually encompass in a certain road that a person goes crazy, right? So first you need to vet everything. You need to find everything. Then you need to vet everything. Then you need to see what their TripAdvisor reviews are. Then you call. Then you book. So it's a fairly long, drawn process, right? Yeah. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to simplify all of that and bring everything on one platform. Right? So on a click of a button, you're not able to discover which road you want to do. You're also able to chat with friends because again, from a personal viewpoint, what happens when you are going as a group, you basically create a WhatsApp group and invite 10 friends saying MP road trip. Okay. And then what happens is there's always 9 of our friends who are a little lazy and laid back. And there's one Entu guy like, screw y'all. I'm going to be the one who's going to take the lead. Okay. So I've always been that guy, and I take the lead and I send out that plan. So I do all this mehnat and I send the plan to everybody, and that's when they get up and saying, "Oh,
but this
doesn't sound great. But this, I would want this and I would want that and all that, right?" So then me as the Enthu guy goes crazy, even more crazier because I go back to my research and I incorporate all their feedback, and then I'm like, "Oh my god!" Now I take everything and go back and put it on the WhatsApp group, and then again, and then it starts. It's like a tennis. It's a tennis match. They're then coming back with their suggestions, me incorporating, coming back, all that. So what we've done is we've actually built a chat feature on the app where all of us as 10 friends are able to see live what is being done. You put it on the platform, and then all of us can actually change, and literally it's as easy as dropping pins, right? So all of us, so if you want to, Amit, you want to do a scenic drive, you want to do a farm stay, you want to do a home stay, you want to do this, that, all of that can be dropped in. So live, everybody can actually see it, right?
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, that's how the whole product has been built. It's been a good 2.5 years. So it's been a fairly longish journey. But if I actually see from a founders or from all the stuff that we've done, I still feel that, it's still very initial stages, and road trip as a culture is picking up. It's moving.
I really like the pre-planned trips you guys have, right? You have stuff like, I want to do a 3-day trip which is a scenic trip, which is like, in Maharashtra or in Bangalore or something like that. I really like those kind of preset kind of things, right? I think that is...
You're making people avoid this whole decision anxiety, right? I mean, when people can't make up their minds or they can't figure out what's the right thing to do, obviously you need some template. But like you said, you also need a product which allows some flexibility and feedback and all of those things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Is this a product you actually went, like when you told me the story about Goa, is this what you thought was the ideal, the version of what you're building today? You said 2.5 years. Tell us about the
pivot.
The journey, the learnings in that 2.5 years.
So, one thing, that's a great question actually, right? So one thing was fairly certain that one thing that was certain in my head were the problems that actually existed in the road trip as a segment, right? Whether it's pre-trip, it's on-trip, or it's post-trip. I mean, so road trip is broken down, as I said, into 3, larger buckets.
Phases,
So pre-trip is more like armchair reading that, we have 5 of us in the room and it's like, hey, you know what, let's go on a road trip. And that's when the whole planning phase kicks in, that where, what, how. And I've seen that and I'm going to answer your question, right? So I've seen that with a lot of biker community. They're like, boss, hum hai. I don't really need any app to tell me, right? But now, so we actually partnered with India Bike Week last year, and a couple of years ago, we spoke to a lot of biker community, and what we realized speaking to them is it's actually cool to plan. See, what happens as a biker that because you know your stuff so well, okay, so you're like, dude, I don't need anything, right?
Yeah.
But we actually explained to them that if you're actually going on this route, and if you're told that there's a great, little hidden gem or a great Raigad fort, which is just a 20-minute detour on their route, would it make sense for you to stop and take it? He said, yeah, it would, right?
Yeah.
So now we're trying to make planning cool. In that whole millennial or the younger lot or the biker community especially, don't believe in planning. It's a bloody country. What will happen? Nothing's going to happen to us, right? So that's actually gradually changing. People want to kind of plan a little bit. So I think the key is to just handhold in a way where planning is considered cool, but not over planning, right? So you have to have that sense of uncertainty, right? So all these things were clear. The problems were clear in my head, but how the whole product would pan out and how it will all come out has been, hit and miss, trial and run, and again, as a product company, you build a product from scratch, you take it to the market. The beauty of tech is you're able to put in analytics, right? So, you have analytics, so you have CleverTap and a lot of other platforms to kind of understand and, understand where people are going, where people are dropping. So all of that has been a decent learning, and the pivot or the product shaping is based on data rather than thumb saying, I think it should be this. I think it has to be on data. I mean, it has to be a combination of both. Sometimes you go on the gut, which I think is very important. You have to go on the gut, but it has to be kind of backed by, decent amount of data. So I would do gut first and data second rather than data first and gut second.
Yeah, that's actually, the gut actually makes you do the things in the first place, and then you refine it with data.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I hope it kind of answers your question.
Yeah. No, and exactly that, right? Given that this domain is, like you said, even as a regular traveler or anyone who does even one small trip, need not even be road trip, right? Even the regular vacations, wherever they are. There's so much unscattered information out there that you end up spending, the N2 ones at least end up spending days and days and sites on just exploring the data. So are you also trying to help condense all of that into a single destination for people to, let's say, like when I want to go on a road trip, like Amit said, if I want to do something, I mean, we are in Bombay. Goa is obviously a great road trip, but most of the time there are only few roads you can take out from this city, right? So and a lot of times people are like looking for just ideas or looking for inspiration. So are you also providing a lot of that, like I said, content or ideas or inspiration? Are you trying to put that all together in one place? Is that also one of the product capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, content's the king. I mean, why is Netflix now Netflix? Why is Amazon Prime? Because they build great content. Why is IVM gonna get into 100 episodes? Is because of great content, right? I mean, you guys have got great speakers, vetted, curated, all of that, right? So we actually started EasyRoads with a lot of curated information, because if you're building stuff and you're putting onto a platform, you can't just rely on what people would say, right? So you build credibility first, right? So we built a lot of we had an in-house content team, and we built decent credibility by putting relevant information. And that's when, and see, you can do that only to a certain scale. Now, beyond a point, if you want to achieve scale, it has to be user generated. It has to be, so then you build a platform where you give and provide tool sets to people to then just start saying, hey, you know what, I've gone on a road trip and I see this beautiful dhaba and it's not there on the platform. Click it, upload it, bang, it's in the platform, right? So we've had a lot of people using our platform to actually build road trips, right? So we've had almost, good 200, 300 people using EasyRoads to build a road trip from scratch. So we've now become more like a platform for people to discover what is already there and customize it. Or the enthu ones are like, dude, I want to build my road trip from scratch.
Nice.
Right? So what would take days and months is now taking, like minutes or a few days.
You have all of the different pieces of the road trip that they would want to take, what route to take, what spaces to stop at, what places to eat at.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is built into it.
Absolutely,
the tourist things around there.
Correct. And a lot of AI, right? So I think a big change in the last couple of years has been moving gradually from curated content to UGC to a lot of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And so we're using AI and ML fairly extensively to now start curating a road trip, completely completely AI ML. Right?
Wow.
So that's I'm actually pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And it achieves great scale. I know now it's my second startup stint, and I believe you have to scale, and tech, it's very hard to scale without tech. I'm not saying it's impossible, it just takes time. Right. So like our office is in Andheri, we can actually launch anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
We just need like a month and a half to kind of go out there.
Right.
So how's that been actually? I mean, I'm interested to know a little more about the tech. Apart from the platform and the product that you've built to, easily do this, obviously it's user friendly and it has all the elements which a traveler needs. But what's the underlying tech? Can you talk about a little bit of the AI stuff that you guys are building?
I just want to say one thing here, which is kind of weird. We are the three employers of William John.
Yeah, I know.
We
already spoke about it.
One commonality is William John. William, we're all here in this room because of you, buddy.
We spoke about it.
That's right.
Which is kind of strange, unusual, yes. But sorry,
But that's cool, right? There's techies everywhere.
So good thing that William is doing is actually finding and identifying the right employers.
The right founders.
So kudos to William, wherever you are, buddy. You'll probably be sitting outside and coding an Android app for Amit.
Exactly.
But you were talking about the tech.
The tech, yeah, Sachin. I mean, what can you tell us about? Like, you're competing also with a lot of content. A lot of big platforms out there. You mentioned TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor has sort of been this hallmark of people go to TripAdvisor no matter what. Right? So how do you really compete with that? Obviously, curated content you said doesn't scale. How do you compete with that on a tech and product platform basis so that people choose you to sort of finalize their, or at least you're in the...
See, I think, again, a good question. Now, the key difference between TripAdvisor and, say, EasyRoads is we're more vertical. TripAdvisor is more horizontal, right? So, right from a hotel to, what route to a flight to even taking a review on whether, Air Atlantic is good or not. All of that reviews on TripAdvisor, right? So if a person wants to do a generic travel, I myself would not book without looking at TripAdvisor. Right? I would want to, because I rely heavily on what the reviews are.
Right.
Now the key difference for EasyRoads is we're vertical. We're building a community, or we're building a platform for road trips, right? So if you want to do a road trip, hopefully you'll come to EasyRoads, okay? Because we have far more in-depth just about roads, right? Yeah. So we've seen that, right? I mean, in fact, we have an API integration with TripAdvisor, right? So we actually take some reviews from TripAdvisor, but that's more at the destination, but not as much on the journey. And our focus is the journey. And hence, there's a clear differentiator between us and a lot of companies.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. On that note, let's take a quick break, come back and talk some more.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. As always, it's an awesome week. We'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this month as well, Savari, Storytel, and Paytm Money. Just a reminder, we're hiring some people. We're looking for producers, content creators, audio engineers, developers. Check out our careers page on our website. And if you're interested in working at the most awesome place in the world, please do send us your application. We have a few new shows launching. So the first new show we got launching is called Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch. It's hosted by Janice Sequeira and Anirudh Goa. They're a TV-crazy, Netflix-loving, binge-watching couple who snort television for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They talk about the shows they binge on and a whole lot more. New episodes are out every Thursday on our network. Another new show we have is called Edges and Sledges. It's a cricket podcast where Varun, Ashwin, and DJ talk all about cricket. This week they have Tatenda Taibu, the former Zimbabwe captain, as their guest. It's the ICC World Cup season, so definitely check this one out. On Cyrus Says, Rohit P-Man Pereira and Kripa Goyal, hosts of the ATKT Talent Tent podcast, talk to Cyrus about tattoos, Catholic school plays, young adult fiction, and their new podcast. Also check out the Cock and Bull edition of Cyrus Says from last week, where Vivek Kaul joined Cyrus, me, and Abbas to make sense of the election results. On the Pragati podcast, Narayan Ramachandran, co-founder of the Takshashila Institute, joins Pawan to talk about the NDA's agenda for the next 5 years. On Croc Tales, Anand Sivakumaran narrates a tale on spicing things up between Rahul and Shreya. How can a couple spice it up? Find out with Chief Croc. On our Kannada podcast, Thalle Harate, Vijayendra Rao talks to Pawan Srinath and Ganesh Chakravarti about India's Gram Sabhas, one of India's biggest democratic successes since independence. On Simplified, Chuck and Naren go back in time and talk about moments when human activity influenced a change on the Earth's geology and ecosystems. On Equity Sahiye, brought to you by Motilal Oswal, Shrey Lunkar joins Anupam to discuss the Indian automobile sector. On Know Your Kanun, Amber Rana gets into the details of defamation and its exceptions under the law. On What a Player, Siddharth and Mikhail are previewing the ICC Cricket World Cup 2019 along with their predictions. And with that, let's go on with your show.
Hey, welcome back to the show. We were obviously continuing our conversation here. Let's get back in. The fact that you spoke about AI and you spoke about the future of all of this tech, obviously that helps you scale. You'll probably launch wherever in the world, like you mentioned. How do you actually how have the early experiments been? I'm actually curious to answer hear about whether does AI do a good job of things which are inherently like very human, right? Like a good dhaba or a good route, or whether a road is safe, unsafe. Like these are things which, like you said, when you started building this platform, it attracts people because it's inherently unique. Like these are small elements you need to add information to, which a huge platform typically doesn't scale well to. So how are you making sure that AI doesn't lose that bit of human element?
You're clearly asking all the right questions. I'm sure you've interviewed so many techies, you bloody know what to ask, man. So again, right, AI does a good job, but there's a lot of manual stuff that it's a one-time exercise.
Yeah, you have to train it.
You need to train it, exactly, right? So you need to map things correctly, right? So if I put a route from A to B as unsafe, okay, if I've tagged it, okay, then AI is going to understand this is unsafe, right?
Correct.
So the initial tagging and mapping is very important. We need to get that right. Okay, so that needs manual intervention. So the first part, I don't know. At this stage, we're not completely made humans redundant. We
of course
have to use humans, but the idea is to use it gradually less so that you can scale. But
right.
So the platform, as I said, is you use the manual intervention to tag, map everything, and then let the algo build it and let the machine kind of start learning user behavior and what they like, what they don't like, all of that,
right.
So
awesome.
Yeah, so that's how it works. Yeah. So as I said, in summary, AI and ML works, but so it's like how FIFO is, right? First in, first out. So you put in shit, you get out shit.
Garbage in, garbage
in, garbage out. Right. So if you put in at the source, if you put in correct information, and then it'll come out.
Right. So how's the overall reaction been from people who actually use the product? Like what's the biggest takeaway from a feedback point of view? And you mentioned you started with SurveyMonkey, you actually took feedback and you built a product and it's been 2.5 years. What's the outcome of the user feedback? Why do they love EasyRoads?
Yeah, again, right. So see, people who have found EasyRoads love EasyRoads. And I believe in the product that we're building. We're building a good product and, all of that, right? But I think the user feedback, as I said, is that because of analytics, we are able to, so if a person is finding something on EasyRoads and he's not able to find it, we get an alert. Okay, and based on those alerts, we're like, oh, somebody's typing a road trip from Andhra or from say Manipur to Cherrapunji, whatever, right? And there's no road trip, or there's not mapped or whatever it is, right? So at least we know that somebody's looking from here to here, right? So then we know that okay, chalo, like if there are X number of people looking for it, then it makes sense to kind of look at that route, not necessarily that directly just kar lo, So the adoption has been good. It's definitely been slow. I mean, I had no doubt about it, right? I mean, one of the key learnings is, see, when you're creating a product from scratch, the process is slow. When you're creating a new category, right? So road trips as a category is new in India, you know. And see, we've always been doing road trips since we were kids, but they were never termed as road trips. We've always gone to Lonavlas and the Mahabaleshwars and the Panchginis, but they were never termed as road trip because it was very like, hum jate hai, hum aate hai. It was not like it was very destination focused. Right? I want to have a lovely hotel in Panchgini and I'm going to just go there and chill and that's it, right? But now the new, the travelers, right? I mean, are wanting to experience something new, different. So they want to have that sense of adventure. So the adoption is there. It's good, but it's been slow. It's been slow is because with the limited amount of money that we have, it's clearly the case of, you put in, money in marketing and getting the word out there, more people hear us, right? So people who know us, love us, give us comments, we incorporate those comments and start building the product or revamping the product. But obviously, as I said earlier, that if you're building a category, it's even more harder.
So more on that point, right? As a category, I also think, and this is with the rise of obviously travel in general, right? People travel more. India is becoming not just a destination for foreigners to come and enjoy, but even local travelers to travel inside. Plus, there's so many car sharing, ride sharing, car rental, self-drive is huge now. So finally, maybe people have access to also road trips a lot more. It used to be people with cars only. Now it's someone who can rent a car for a few days and just take a road trip as well. So you see, obviously that has helped.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, right? I mean, the whole ecosystem is now being built, right? So as you said, that you have self-car rentals, you have self-bike rentals. You have, obviously we have the Olas and the Ubers, but the outstations are helping.
Correct.
The likes of Sawaris are helping because, you can just, rent a driver and a car and, you can go. So I think the good thing is that the ecosystem is being built, and for us, fortunately, we're at the center where EasyRoads can be applicable to an OEM, it can be applicable to a tire company, it can be applicable to a battery company, because the user base that EasyRoads is trying to create is very relevant to all of these guys. Right. So actually, as I said, the ecosystem is being built, and the good thing is, it's also being liked by VCs, because if they've pumped in so much, I mean, Ola has pumped in 500 million in their self-car rental company. Or rather their vertical. And that clearly shows what, Bhavish and the team are believing in terms of the self-car. I mean, 500 million is not a small amount, right? So that gives us immense confidence that, let's hang in, right? So it's more like a test match than a 2020 for us at EasyRoads, or for anybody creating a new category, that we got to somehow, man, keep hanging in there. Because then, I mean, I can see it. I honestly am telling you, I can see where EasyRoads can pan and where. But the challenge is we got to hang in for a bit, man.
And also, I mean, overall, this is similar to probably what, Airbnb, when it started, no one thought about all the things that Airbnb was wanting to do. Now they are the first destination a lot of times. Like when you think road trip, I mean, at least I actually think, I look at Airbnb first. I don't even go to a regular hotel site. I just look at what Airbnbs exist in a particular destination I want to go to. And then reverse from there,
correct. I found a beautiful property and then
exactly.
No, so exactly, as you said, Airbnb, great case study. So in my downtimes, I read all those books, man. I read all those case studies. If they've done it, why can't we not?
Exactly, and it ties into the same ecosystem which is being built. Like, there's a lot to discover. We're a huge country.
We are.
I mean, and not just India, right? I mean, sure, this. Are you looking at how this could be done worldwide? What are your thoughts on?
I'm actually super convinced. And, as every founder, you keep questioning yourself. I actually question that if I have to redo EasyRoads again, would I launch it in another country? I probably would. Okay. I probably would, honestly, right? Because see, as you said, the beauty of India is that it's a large segment, a large market. Probability of things working here is obviously a lot more higher. All of that, right? We have great pros, but road trip as a segment, if I have to launch it abroad, it might also make a lot more sense because the people are used to driving. The whole ecosystem is far more easier. There's a lot more certainties, all of that, right? So like having one platform for everything road, right? You ride from roadside assistance, you really need a driver or a mechanic or this. It's just one platform, right? So you don't need to go all over. And globally also, there are not too many products like this. I mean, there's one company called Road Trippers in the US, which exists. But apart from that, there are not too many companies international which are out there. So I'm actually super, it's my dream, man. It's my dream to, and I tell my team as well that we're not building a company just for India. We're building a truly global international company, and we want to think. Ola, man. I follow Ola closely. I love the way that company is grown.
They're international.
Bhavish was a normal guy, super sharp for sure. I've heard him speak and all of that. But how they've gone in bits and pieces. They've launched in UK and they've launched in Australia.
Yeah.
I would love to follow what Ola is doing. I'd love to get in touch with Ola.
Awesome, man. All right. So what's the other shout out you want to do? Like, obviously, to people who are listening in, are you guys scaling? You're also building out of Bombay, which is awesome. Do you think this is the right place to build a tech company like yours, or have you ever thought of moving to Bangalore? I ask this question to everyone because everyone's here.
So I think it all depends on scale. We're a smaller team, so being a smaller team, and obviously I'm not one of the younger founders, I'm a little on the older side, unfortunately.
We all are, man.
We all are, man. So what happens is obviously we have our responsibilities, we have a family, all of that, right? So rather than uprooting the entire family and going somewhere, it's a lot more harder. Not risky, but it's a lot more harder. Right? And I firmly believe in also that, you have to be in a happy space.
Right.
It's not only about work. So if you're, financially or personally you're happy, it all reflects when you're coming to office, or it reflects on the output, right? So I'm always of the belief that I need to keep Saturday, Sundays off. Right? Yeah. Today we are recording the podcast on a Saturday, which is cool because this is fun for me. Yeah. But I believe that a person who comes on Monday should be fresh. If you actually, honestly ask yourself that by working every Saturday, how much, kitna tod lenge hum? Nahi todenge. But the guy, I feel it's also a big reason to retain, man. Like if you give 2 days off, it makes a difference, right? Course. So as I said, right, coming back to Gurgaon, Bangalore, Delhi, they are definitely far more startup friendly policies. I've gone and met some ministers there, a lot more easier. Maharashtra, it's not that easy. Now, on Bombay, the real estate is expensive, for sure.
Cost of living,
all of that is expensive, right? Commute, all of that, right? So if you obviously add all that, it's definitely more expensive to, do a startup in Bombay. But it's also access, right? A lot of our partners are here. A lot of good people are here in Bombay. So makes it far more easier for me as a founder to reach out because, that's what we need to do. Right. But if you have to build a team which is largish, it's harder to build it in Bombay.
You can probably have people who love travel to join your team, and you can say literally build out of anywhere. Join our team remote, go on a road trip, sit in a place where, as long as there's good Wi-Fi, do your work.
I think Geo, man. Hats off to Mukesh bhai.
Exactly.
He's made voice and SMS free.
Yeah.
So virtually nobody wants to pay for voice and SMS. He's made it free. It's become a commodity, right? Yeah. So whenever it gets commoditized, right? So data is now the new thing, right? So because of so much of penetration and the way Geo has changed the rules, man.
Exactly. So all the more
a reason where people can be remotely anywhere and help and contribute and build the platform, right? So
that's really awesome.
So the shout out is definitely any cool people who love road trips, and actually can utilize their knowledge to contribute to a platform, and obviously in turn, and I believe in not doing only freebies, man. If you've built great stuff, that's your IP. You have to monetize your IP.
Yeah.
So you should get in touch with me, Sachin at EasyRoads.in, or
Are you on Twitter?
We're all there. I mean, all of us. I mean, we can't not afford to be on any of these media. So we're all on all these platforms, and we're fairly fast in replying. And so you should definitely reach out to us to help build a cult and a movement for road trips in India.
Cool. Awesome. Also, guys, just a reminder, if you are not if you're not subscribed to the Slack channel, go to the website ivmpodcast.com/Shunya1. There's a link over there to the Slack, join Slack. Click the button over there, send us an email address, and we will send you an invite. And also do give us a rating review wherever you're listening to this. That will help.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much, Sachin.
That was quick,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, this was
I want to
awesome.
talk more.
We should do another episode.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and listen into the Equity Sahiya podcast brought to you by Motilal Oswal Asset Management Company. The Equity Sahiya podcast offers deep investment insights into the potential of many sectors in India which are growing and have a lot to offer for your portfolio. New episodes out every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast app or any other app where you get your podcasts from.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.